Hi everyone. I had a script, I had a video script. It was great. It was about some music industry stuff, about Spotify, and then James Charles makes a video, and now I gotta talk about it. So thanks, James. First things first, a housekeeping note. I am going to move to posting exclusively on Fridays. I used to do some fancy shit. I am very busy in April and the beginning of May. It is just going to be easier for me if I have a consistent, just, you know what, we're posting on Fridays. Friday is the day that we're posting. And that'll be that. You're seeing this on April 2nd. I'm filming this on April 1st. Okay. So background to the situation that's happening that I'm talking about today, right now. Okay. James Charles has been texting and Snapchatting and sending nudes to minors. Some as young as 15-year-old boys, and he is 22, I believe. He's turning 22 in May. He's a Gemini. So he's 21 right now. He can drink. Congratulations, James. There's been about 5 boys that have come out in 2021 alone. It kind of culminated. All of them are underage. So this has been an issue, and we know that he has been accused of this before, and we'll get there, right? He asked for the boys' ages, and that the boys lied about it, and that the boys the boys, the ones that have said, hey, James Charles has been texting me inappropriately and I'm 16, they have all posted their receipts of conversations with James Charles, some even going as far to post the nudes that they received from him. And it's very like, what are you doing, dude? This is normally a huge deal, like in general, like a creator messaging their fans, that's a big deal. A creator messaging underage fans, that's a big deal. For James Charles, it's even bigger because he was accused of this before in the Bi Sister scandal by Tati Westbrook, Jeffree Star, and allegedly, according to Tati's video, Shane Dawson. They all in 2019 kind of conspired together to post the Bi and start the Bi Sister scandal, and were the first ones to bring these allegations up against James. So a lot of people have turned against James in this, and a lot of people are questioning if Tati in her first video were right. I'm gonna address that later. Like that'll be the last thing that I address. James Charles also posted a video yesterday for you, today for me. Called Taking Accountability, and it's about this entire situation, so let's talk about it. If I'm looking down, so in the video, right, James Charles explains that he didn't know how power imbalances work, and he spoke to professionals and people behind the scenes, and he gets it now, but I don't really think that he does, and how he understands that normal people can't separate him from his fame, which your fame and your James Charles is part of your identity, and people can't really separate it out the same way that you apparently can. I also don't think that James can actually, like, I don't live in his head, so I can't confirm this, but I feel like there's a very high chance that James can't actually separate the fame from himself in his head, or that he should. Like, it's something that he should really consider about. I mean, maybe not make it his entire identity, but it's certainly a thing he has to think about occasionally. He apologizes a lot. He apologizes to everybody at least like 3 times. And he says that going forward, he's going to ask for proof of ID before speaking to people. He also says that he was using his For You page as a dating app, and that he won't do that anymore. And that the reason that this keeps happening and keeps coming up for him is because he's desperate for a relationship. The video is 14 minutes. Go watch it. It's a short watch. I think it's worth it. I also just want to address something about me before I get into the James stuff. I am addicted to this drama. Listen, Tati's in something, James is in something, Jeffree Star's in something, Shane Dawson's something. I'm on it so fast, and it's so bad. Like, I'm aware this is a character flaw of mine. Unlike James. Okay, so my issues with this video and what he said, and you know what, like, he said he's taking a step back for a while, so that's okay. Like, I'm pro that, but I also don't think he has gone as far as he needs to in his attempts to understand his behavior and understand what he's doing. Okay, So the first thing is that James never addressed the level in that he was messaging fans. He was just saying about how boys had messaged him first and how he didn't understand that his fame and notoriety was getting in the way of his relationship finding with other people, and that now he understands, right? But each of these boys came up and said, like in the screenshots, I say, oh my god, I'm such a huge fan, and it goes really fast into inappropriate messaging. I still don't think he really understands, because he doesn't condemn dating fans or people who at least say they're a fan of you, right? He doesn't really address that level of it. He addresses that they're underage. He addresses that he doesn't understand the power imbalance, but he doesn't address that he shouldn't message fans. Even if your fans are of age, you shouldn't be messaging them, because again, that's still the power imbalance that's happening, right? And the reason why you shouldn't flirt or message your fan or DM your fans in a flirty way, the reason why you shouldn't send nudes to your fans is because of the parallel social relationship you have with them, right? So as a content creator, even a newbie like me, right, there's a parasocial relationship here, right? Like, people who watch this video, besides the people who like know me in real life, there's a relationship, right? That's kind of like almost a fake one. It's a very different, because it's through a screen, right? You people don't actually know me. Unless, of course, you're like people that know me from real life, and then you're like, well, yeah, I do. But yeah, that's because like you were my friend and I knew you before I started posting YouTube videos. So that's different. But for people that come across me and watch my stuff and are like, you know, oh, whatever, right? Like, that's a parasocial relationship. I'm speaking, but not directly to you. I'm speaking to a group of people. It's the kind of like the same relationship, but like you would have with the lead singer at a concert. They're singing to you, but not directly. They're singing to the crowd. I'm speaking to you, but not directly. I'm speaking to the crowd of people that would watch this video. James, and when you try to evolve or change a parasocial relationship there, or make it more real or more serious or take it offline, that's when harm can be done, right? That's when the harmfulness can be done. It's okay to have a parasocial relationship with somebody, right? Like, I'm not going to be the one shitting on parasocial relationships like some people do, but you need to have normal real life like friends too. Like, make sure you don't only have parasocial relationships. And two, you also need to like be careful, because when you bring them to a different level, then that's where harm can happen. And James was trying to bring parasocial relationships with individual fans that would DM him first into a different level, and that's where the harm happened. He also just doesn't understand that you can't go about dating in the same way as you would if he was just like a 22-year-old college student. Like, he can't date like that. You can't just DM someone on TikTok from your official James Charles account and have it be okay. That's not how it works. And like, the part about him using the For You page as a dating app, that was actually like, that's actually predatory, right? Before we get to the underage thing, which I'm going to, like, that's actually like, he like, big creator scrolling a For You page, finding people that he finds cute, and then DMing them from there. That's predatory, because you have like, people can see how many followers you have on TikTok and how many views you get, right? So like, to go there and go to somebody who doesn't get as many views as you and go, oh my god, you're so cute, like, of course your clout is going to come into play in a relationship like that, you know? And it's not, and then people posting on TikTok, like, it's not OkCupid, like, it's not Tinder. So like, when someone posts on TikTok, they're not posting with the intent of being approached like that too. So there's already that level of it. And like, sure, like, you can scroll the For You page and leave a nice comment on a TikTok that you really like. If a fan DMs you, you can say, oh my god, thank you so much, like, I love what I do, like, I'm so glad you're my fan, but leave it at that. You don't need to have in-depth conversations and plan your wedding with these people before, you know, like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, moral of the story, don't approach or try to have serious relationships with your fan. A fan-creator relationship, I want to rephrase that. The fan-creator relationship is a serious one, and it's serious enough on its own, and you should not take somebody who is a fan of you and date them or have a relationship with them that is very, very serious. Hello, it's crazy editing, Christina. I just want to read it because I didn't say this point well in the video before I move on to the next point. I just want to reiterate there is a small sections of situations where it does make sense to take a fan and make the relationship more serious. A good example of that would be like what happened with My Chemical Romance, where Frankie Iero was a fan of the band before he joined it, right? But that's a professional relationship, not a romantic one. No matter what you crazy kids say. Please, are you enjoying my mess in the background? That was a professional relationship and not a romantic run, and is a very different situation because Frank had a skill that My Chemical Romance was looking for in a second guitarist. Even then, and then even in other situations where like there is somewhat of a power imbalance, it's not necessarily, it's hard to navigate. Certain relationships can do it, but in this situation, none of the relationships that James was trying to start could have navigated the power imbalance, mostly because all of these kids were 15. That's an exaggeration. Some of them are older than that, but like, you know, like, come on. Point 2. If you have to ask, sorry, I'm not in the center. If you have to ask for ID from someone before you speak to them, you have bigger fucking problems than being desperate for a relationship or missing social cues. There are bigger problems going on here, right? Like, I have never been in the situation where I need to ask somebody to show me ID before speaking to them, just in case they're underage. I've never been in that situation. I really feel like, and this is something that he just does not, he glosses over the fact that these were high schoolers. He said they were underage, but he's glossing over that it's not like these are kids in high school. He needs to really, and he said he was self-reflecting, and I would like to see him, and he doesn't have to do this publicly, but I really do think he needs to ask himself why high schoolers who look like high schoolers are attractive to him. Because it's not just the desperation to be in a relationship. He blames it on the desperation to be in a relationship, but it's not just the desperation to be in a relationship. And I think he really needs to get as deep as he can on that idea. Why were these boys, because they were boys, they were in high school, attractive to him? And I think that he needs to get really deep on that, because there is this big stereotype that gay men are either child predators or were preyed on when they were child. And this is not something that the LGBT community needs following it with some of our biggest creators, right? Like he needs to get real deep into what he desires before coming back, because he is one of the most prominent gay men on YouTube. So to be falling to these stereotypes, and I'll address another stereotype too at the end that he kind of is falling to, right? Like, you need to not do this, because we all know it's wrong. Like, what you're doing is wrong, but like it's a little extra harmful because of who you are, because you're proving he's proving bigots right by doing this. Like, that's what he's doing, and that's what's infuriating to me, because like the mass majority of LGBTQ people are not like this, but the one big one is like this. Really? Are you serious? Now I want to address the desperation to be in a relationship, which is the reason he says he does all of this. It's not enough of a reason to say that you're attracted to high schoolers, but I do just want to talk a little bit about this, because I think that this desperation for him to find his person and have someone to share all of this everything with, I do think that plays part into a wider situation that we're going to see open up more often, and to see become kind of an issue more often, because of just, you know, whatever. I just think this is going to be something that's worth addressing now and worth thinking about now, and then continue to think about in the future. So like, we build a foundation now, and then when more situations come up, we can talk about, well, remember when we spoke about this concept? Okay. I want to talk a little bit about queer temporality, right? So the shorthand of it, right, is that LGBTIA plus people don't experience adulthood in the passage of time in the same way as straight people do. And this is because the markers that heteronormative society pushes as the markers of being an adult, of when you achieve adulthood are often restricted from LGBTQIA plus people, right? Like often that is held from the community. So this is where I point you to a couple sources. There's an article in the description that I read that's helping me do some of the basics here. And then PhilosophyTube has a video called Queer, and there's a little emoji. The video speaks more in depth about queer temporality than I am going to here, and Abigail does a great job. I love her. We know this. So go watch that. Go read the article if you want to know more, and go watch that video if you want to know more, because it's good. I am going to just list these markers of adulthood listed in the article, and then I'm going to talk about how this kind of relates to James, right? So the markers of adulthood mentioned in the article linked below are completing education, entering the workforce, becoming financially independent, getting married, and becoming a parent, in that order. If those 5 things happen in that order, you are an adult. And that typically happens before 30, right? All of those things happen before 30. And then there's other markers that we can speak about, like dating your first girlfriend or boyfriend in high school, you know, having your first crush in middle school. Like there are other things that we can mark too that are just different for LGBTQ people. But like, for the purposes of this video, those 5, I'm focusing on the getting married and having kids part. From the outside looking in, right? So from the outside, because I don't know James, I'm not friends with James, I've never spoken to him, I live on the opposite coast, like outside looking in, from somebody who's watched this scandal develop from the beginning, because I do think this is just this has ended up being an extension of Bisister because of the topic matter. Oh my god. James has hit 3 of those 5 things. He's gotten an education. I don't even think he went to college. So I'm gonna, he graduated high school, but I'll say that as being educated. He has his own business, and it's financially independent from his parents, to the point where I think he probably supports his parents, right? And that is insane, because he's 21 years old, turning 22 in May. He did that. He has a successful business and financially supports his parents, all before the age of 22, right? Straight people? Most straight people. I can't, there's also, the Paul brothers, but, that's a different situation, right? But, most people, most straight people, they just complete the first one by 22. So James has sped up time. Do you see how that kind of works? He has hit some of these markers super earlier than what straight people normally do. So it's a different relationship with the passage of time, because he did things so fast, right? However, I'm sure if I put myself in, and I, don't particularly want to, because there's some parts of his experience that I just don't want to understand, because again, I don't find high schoolers attractive. Shocking. From his perspective, he hit some of these markers so fast, but he's being delayed on the relationship part of this, right? He doesn't have a boyfriend to share his success with or to be romantic with. He just doesn't have this one thing. And of course, in order to be an adult, you need to have these things, right? This is what we've been told our entire life. We need to have these things in order to be an adult. And he has 3 out of 5 of them. And I can see from the outside looking in where that desperation comes from, because you're going so fast. You're going 120 on the fucking highway, and you can't stop. But it feels it feels like the car is running out of gas, right? Because you can't hit this one marker, even though you've hit the other 3 so fast. Before you even turned 18, you've hit some of these things. So it's I understand the need, the desperation to get with somebody, because that's what you're supposed to do. And he's already done everything else, so this is the next step. But that's crazy. You take a step back and you go, he's 22, and only Republicans get married at 22. So, from the outside looking in, it's also what's the rush? Why are you so desperate? And this is also coming from somebody who has never been desperate to be in a relationship, ever in my life. You will not catch me slipping, first of all. And second of all, I just don't, that's something that I don't relate to. I would love to be in a relationship, but also, man, do I like my space and alone time. So, it happens when it happens. And so I think part of the desperation for a relationship is coming from this idea that things happen in an order and he's on the next step, you know? Now, the idea of time and adulthood is eventually going to change, especially as LGBT people in the community becomes more visible. The story of life, the path that people take, it'll be more acceptable to take alternate paths that don't necessarily hit those markers in the same way. And life does not have to happen according to the capitalist heteronormative script that's been handed to all of us, right? And I want to just emphasize that, right? Like it happens in that order because of capitalism, right? They want you to be a productive member of capitalist society, and then they want you to reproduce and make another productive member of capitalist society. Like, that's why it works like that. It's a whole thing. Go read a book, go watch the video, that whole thing. Okay. That's actually a topic that I'm really interested in, so watch out for me to talk more about queer temporality, because time is like fake, right? Like I said, like time's not real. Okay, so now for my last point. My last point is, was Tati right? Was the original Bi Sister video, which originally brought this idea that James Charles is a predator out into the public, in open public, right? Was she right? Was that video right? And my answer is no. So let's recap. Now with this new context of James's desperation that's probably been happening since before 2019, his own admitted desperation, let's talk about the events that had happened with our new context in mind, right? Jeffree Star, who is an older gay man, that's important, saw that James Charles, a younger gay man, was desperate to find love and looking in the wrong places. Right? This is what he saw. And so instead of guiding James Charles, right, instead of saying, hey, bud, you're not looking in the right places, because that would probably cause Jeffree to ask too many questions about himself, but you didn't hear that about from me. Jeffree took that information that he knew, because he's gay and he knows what it's like to be like, what's happening, because time doesn't work the same way for him, too. He takes that information and twisted it and went to Tati and said, who's a straight woman, a straight white woman, right? And said, hey, James is preying on straight men, trying to turn them gay, right? And that is also a homophobic stereotype. So this older gay man used a homophobic stereotype to try to ruin what he deemed to be a competitor to his YouTube channel or his makeup brand, whatever he thought in his twisted head. Tati then turned around and made Bi Sister, which was a hit piece on a 19-year-old kid. And Tati is nearing 40, right? And that's not supposed to be a hit on Tati. I do not care how old she is. I care that she was older than James and decided that the best way to handle this behavior infraction that she thought was so, oh my god, was a hit piece and not like a discussion with his mother or with him himself, that Tati thought that she was a mentor to James and she decided to do this instead of mentor him, right? Like, do you see what I'm getting at here? James was then forced to defend himself and his business instead of doing the self-reflecting that he should have done in 2019. And he missed his first opportunity to really get into himself, and now he's in deeper shit. Do not get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. James Charles is absolutely responsible for a lot of things that he did. I am not pushing blame on any of this onto anyone other than James Charles. You just watched the entire video. You know that. You know that, right? Especially regarding the fact that he finds high schoolers attractive. Really, dude? Really? I also just want to highlight that, like, the adults, like the people around him that could guide him, both in the business sphere, in his personal life, but people who have similar experiences to him, those people failed him too. So it's not just a personal problem, it's kind of like a structural problem with the people that he was surrounded with, right? And now James doesn't talk to Jeffree or Tati anymore, obviously, so that's good for him. And I hope that he does have different people guiding him, right? He said he spoke to professionals. So I'm assuming there's a therapist involved somewhere. He does have different people guiding him that can help guide him through some of this because he is still 22. So while what he did was wrong and terrible, he's still very young. And while time does not work the same, and he's still responsible, there's still time for him to, like, fix him. I'm always like, I'm pro, like, people can change and grow and fix themselves. Look at Trisha is a perfect example. So, and just a note before I end and sign off, Jeffree Star, Shane Dawson, Tati, silent. Not a word on this. Now, Shane is in, like, exile, but, like, and Tati has left YouTube, but Jeffree has not. And James's video doesn't mention them either, but does mention the situation in 2019 a little bit to give context to what's going on. And as far as Bye Sister goes and the continuing narrative from it, like, this is going to be something that lasts for years and something that we might only get conclusion for when we're all 40, because I think there's some arbitration and NDAs in the background preventing people involved from speaking on whatever's going on in the background, right? And even, like, each other's names. Like, there's probably NDAs being like, you don't speak about each other publicly because of how messy this is, right? Because I know in my gut that if there were not going to be extreme legal consequences, Jeffree Star would be all the fuck over this. I know, I can literally hear him talking shit right now. I can hear it. Like, that's how much I know he would be on this. But he can't, because there's probably some serious consequences if he does get on it. So, that's all I wanted to say. I am going to go work on myself and not being obsessed with this story anymore. But, like, damn. Thank you for watching. I will see you next Friday. Like, comment, and subscribe. Kerr sent me in the comments, ask Jeffree Star what he thinks about this to rub it in that he can't actually talk about this publicly. That would be fantastic. I said like, comment, and subscribe already, right? Right. Okay. Thank you for watching. I love you. Goodbye.